My next patron question is from Niall, who is curious about how the career of a once revered director changed at some point. One director that fascinates me more than most is Rob Reiner. His early work includes films that are beloved by audiences to this day, with Stand By Me and The Princess Bride even being in the IMDb Top 250. But his later work hasn't had the same impact, to put it mildly. North, in particular, is considered to be one of the worst films of all time. There are certainly well-regarded directors that made lesser work, but none have fallen from grace like Reiner has. What do you think of his films, and do you think he can make a film as good as his early work again? Rob Reiner's directorial career has certainly taken an interesting turn. If you look at his output, in the 80s and early 90s, he had an impressive hot streak. This Is Spinal Tap became one of the most influential comedies of all time, with its documentary style being replicated by others. Stand By Me and Misery are deservedly considered among the best Stephen King adaptations, even though both are vastly different films in genre and tone. The Princess Bride is a charming and whimsical satire that cleverly played on fairy tales and adventure stories. When Harry Met Sally is a wonderful romantic comedy, elevated by a witty screenplay by Nora Ephron and excellent lead performances from Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan, and featuring one of the most iconic restaurant scenes ever put to film. And he adapted Aaron Sorkin's stage play A Few Good Men into an exciting courtroom drama. It's remarkable how all of these films are still remembered fondly and continue to find new appreciative viewers every year. These are all very different films, which shows how versatile Reiner was and had a real knack for choosing the right scripts to direct. He even came close to directing The Shawshank Redemption, adding another classic to his resume, but relented when he saw how passionate Frank Darabont was about making the film. Instead, Reiner directed North, a comedy about a young boy who goes on a worldwide search for new parents after he gets tired of his own. It's a bizarre film with a heavy emphasis on exaggerated stereotypes and Bruce Willis showing up in various disguises. I don't have quite the same intense hatred for North that Siskel and Ebert famously had, but I do have to agree with the consensus that it's not a good movie. I mean, it's certainly trying as it throws all sorts of jokes at the screen, and Reiner employs the help of many very funny and talented people, but the finished film lacks the charm or the wit required. He did follow up North with the very good romantic comedy The American President, a movie that successfully mixed politics with a classic Hollywood romance. So his directorial abilities did not suddenly vanish during the making of North. I will confess, though, that I have not watched many of his later career movies. I have seen Rumor Has It, which had an interesting hook of a woman who discovers her grandmother was the basis for Mrs. Robinson in The Graduate, but it ended up becoming just your standard rom-com. There was also his 60s set drama Flipped, which showed the separate points of view of two tweens. It was an interesting device, but I found the boy so unlikable, I had a hard time getting invested in the story. I've also seen And So It Goes, which, despite starring the likes of Michael Douglas and Diane Keaton, was a pretty crummy romantic comedy in my opinion. Green Eggs and Ham definitely uses those two actors a lot better. So to go back to the original question, what happened with Rob Reiner? I don't think he lost his talent, but more so he's not being offered the best material to direct anymore, not helped by the major studios seemingly ignoring Reiner. He used to make films regularly for the likes of Columbia and Warner Brothers. Nowadays, his films are distributed by smaller, lesser-known companies that lack the resources to make sure enough people are aware of them. How many of you have heard of Shock and Awe or Being Charlie? But, like I mentioned, I've not seen a lot of his recent films, so I'm sure there's a hidden gem in there somewhere. I also have a personal philosophy where I treat every director's new movie like a new experience, and don't let whatever negative thoughts I had on their previous work affect my opinion on their next one. I also think Reiner is one of those directors content working behind the camera and working with actors he finds talented. It's not out of the realm of possibility he has another When Harry Met Sally or Princess Bride in him. We just have to wait and see. Thank you for your question, Niall.